All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Simple Coach right here. That's Jackie. She's asleep. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, I had spent a number of years as a coach and player and in soccer, and played Division 3, and sort of took a hankering to watching a lot of games this fall, and through some work and through some things, I decided to, hey, let me post some videos on what I'm seeing, what I'm watching. Some of it, again, is just my own personal preference of how I like things, how I like to play. But figured I'd focus in on some games and do a bunch of different things. So hopefully you get a chance to take a look at some of the other videos I've made. Appreciate and love any comment you have. I feed off the haters. I think I'm supposed to say that. So anyhow, so today, since I had some time, I just wanted to. I thought I would watch the women's final of uh, uh, TC&J versus Christopher Newport. And full confession, if you don't know and you're tuning in for the first time, this year, and you could watch some of the other videos that, I probably watched in excess of 200 Division 3 men's soccer games, and did a whole analysis on passing, and I did a ton of game notes, and you can find those and my game notes for this game, the TC&J Christopher Newport final, on d3soccer.com, the boards there, the D3 boards under men's soccer and then under women's soccer for this game. So I'm just sort of jumping headlong into this, and I'm just trying different things, and these videos are one of them. So again, these are my impressions. I make comments based on what I personally like to see versus what I think I'm supposed to say, if that makes sense. So, I just, again, a lot of this is just for my own edification and simple enjoyment of the game. And had some folks that I work with on the soccer fields tell me that I should consider sharing some of this. So, hey, why not? So we'll give it a whirl. If Jackie starts approving or disapproving of what I'm saying, you will hear her, I guarantee. So I apologize in advance. So I think I just wanted to start with some observations, just general, very broad observations of the game itself, which was played on Saturday. So I'm recording this on Wednesday, so after the game. So it's had a few days to settle in, and so take it for what it's worth. So, the first thing I'd say after watching it, to me, Christopher Newport just seemed a lot more organized on both sides of the ball. They had intent, and I always talk about intent with my teams. They had intent around what they wanted to do. So whether that was defending or attacking, you got a sense that there was an organized plan for that, and I thought it showed through as the game wore on, because less so, to me, it just seemed like TC&J was interested in getting the ball, getting on attack as quickly as possible and as haphazardly as possible. And I'm going to do some things later that might show a glimpse of that, and what I mean by it. Like I said, aside from maybe the first 10 minutes or so, I just thought TC&J struggled to put together any real meaningful attacks. And I think they were always undermanned. I didn't think they were necessarily connected on their attacks. And look, full credit to CNU for defensively, which again I'll highlight. But and I thought that was the game right there was, how CNU approached the game versus how TCNJ did, and I just thought CNU did a much better job. And again, full disclosure, I mentioned earlier, this is my first women's game, so I have, unlike on the men's side, I don't I don't know how TCNJ normally plays, and I don't know how CNU normally plays, and maybe that's a lesson for later. And I watched some more games during the off season, but yeah, it was just those were the it just seemed like TCNJ just it was hard for them to get on the attack, and then once they did, CNU would have numbers, and it was very hard to break down. The other thing I noticed, and this is really general, but you know, I've played against teams and coached against teams where you do get a sense that you're playing against a team, 11 players all working for the same goal. And those are really hard to play against because they might not necessarily have the talent. And I'm not saying that this is the case here, but they might not necessarily have the talent, but as a cohesive unit, they do things and execute things that make it really difficult to get through. And then I've also conversely played against teams that are is a collection of 11 players. And those tend to be a lot. I'd prefer playing teams like that because unless they're so good individually, like they're easier to break down. There's more gaps. There's less discipline on defense. And throughout the whole game, I sort of got that sense that CNU was the team and was playing as a team, and TCNJ was playing as a collection of 11 players. And again, might be the game or whatnot, might not be the case, but that was sort of the take that I had as I was watching it, because yeah, it came across CNU moved as a unit, and that made it very, very difficult for TCNJ. Also thought, again, when TCNJ would receive the ball and get the ball, whether they won it defensively or however, and then they would get on the attack, and then they would finally, you'd kind of be like, okay, now let's get forward and try to get a goal. I just found them very wasteful with the ball, and it might just, again, because they're sort of attacking in this uncoordinated way, and they would, what should be simple passes and possession, they would give away and like give the ball to a forward who is double marked, or they would pass a ball behind somebody, slow everything down, and have CNU catch up, and it just never looked smooth to me. I always got a sense that CNU was going to score when they got the ball before TCNJ did, and I would argue that probably it was late in the second half, and I forget the time, and it's in my, like I said, in my game notes on the d3boards.com under women's soccer. TCNJ didn't seem to have many looks to goal, and I think again a credit to CNU from keeping them out and away from the goal. And anything they did try to do, they would hit these long range shots from 35, 40 yards out, and quite frankly, those don't fly unless maybe 1 out of 100 of those shots goes in, right? Like I'm always try to be realistic about shots like that. So, yeah, and again, CNU, when they got on the attack, you could just see the chaotic nature of how TCNJ seemed to be defending and how quick CNU was able to get forward and behind lines, and you always got a sense that they were going to score goals one way or the other. And yeah, to that end, I thought, first of all, I thought CNU was really patient and really didn't put themselves in a situation where they, went on the attack too soon, or they lost the ball too. They always seemed, when they won the ball, that they got forward quickly in numbers, right? So their attacks always had three players going forward and the midfielders coming in behind and support. And again, I just think the way TCNJ play, where they're getting forward individually, like they left the three defenders in the back really in tight spots at times, just because, again, CNU did a really great job at countering effectively. And I'm going to touch upon this in a little bit, just the defensive organization. So I'm not going to belabor this point much. Just thought defensively, CNU was super well organized, and TCNJ never got the chance. And like I said, I'm going to highlight that in a little bit. So let me. I think this is illegal. I don't know. It's. I have 9 subscribers, and I'm not allowed to monetize my channel for obvious reasons. But when I use the NCAA recordings, I guess I can't monetize it. So whatever penny I was going to get paid for the views on this, I have to surrender, because I'm going to show you the goals that I watched that from the game. And so let me try to get this organized. Yeah, it was kind of funny when I found out that no, I cannot monetize my network. I know you get this whole like readout from this email from YouTube telling me I can't monetize, and like I said, I get 9 subscribers and a couple hundred views. So, but you got to start somewhere when you're going to become a YouTube star like me. Okay, so this is CNU's first goal, and I could have rewound it. Anyhow, shots taken from outside the box, deflection, and it goes out for a corner. And this is I'll let it run through until the goal is scored, and I won't say anything. And then I'll try to go back and find the spot, and then I'll comment and I'll stop. I will comment here where this is the first of 2 corners in a row. It goes out, it's cleared out for another corner. And then that's the goal when the okay. All right, so I'm just going to let this play, and then I'm going to comment, because the two glaring there's a number of glaring things that I just noticed on the first kick, which doesn't surprise me on the second kick as to where how they score. They're obviously pulling somebody out because they have somebody short, but if you watch here, right? Okay, that ball's cleared out by this defender. Aside from these players blocking, this gap right here is basically empty, right? So you have this defender watching the relatively short ball driven to the near post, but floated in, this space right here is wide open, and so you have this forward with the defender running through to the ball. And look, when you do that, yeah, lucky here that it went for a corner, but that could have easily just as been mishit and gone in for a goal, right? And so I'm just surprised that they spent more time watching these 2 players, which if they're that close to the goalie, I'm almost I'm an advocate of, you know, letting the referee aware that they're doing something to the keeper, and then pulling that player and dropping them into this spot, because that's a real dangerous spot on corners. So all right, so I'll let this play. And then what's interesting, they all go back to their same spots, right? See, this is the gap that I was mentioning, right? There's nobody. Nobody. There's nothing here. And so, yeah, you drop it. I would drop it right in there too and hope somebody's able to run on to it. So the corner goes out, boom. And then, we'll have to replay this one. Right, so before you had on this corner, on the previous corner, you had them all running towards the near post. Let's see if they replay. I think they replayed this one. Come on. Here we go. Okay, here's the cross. First of all, the keeper comes out on a fishing expedition for this player to head the ball, who is wide open, and doesn't get the ball, and it just drops back to the far post. And like I said before, on the first one, you had all the players running towards the near post, and seemingly by design, they go after it here, and it lands to this player who's also... Right, this defender should be clearing that ball back to a corner if necessary, and then this back player is the one who drills the ball in for a goal, and there it is. All right. So that's the first goal. And then this is the second goal, which I actually think is, obviously because it's run of play, it's actually run of play and not a set piece is more interesting, but just let it play. So really good double team that goes out for a throw. Might be a little too early. I'll see if I can speed it up. Okay, here it is. Here it goes. Player gets the ball, no pressure, takes a touch, launches the ball behind the line, and it's a foot race. And then I wasn't too sure if this was a penalty based on the way the ball was going till I watched the replay, and then I think it's pretty clear it's a penalty kick. So let's see. Yeah, I'll see if we can go back. Right there, slides, doesn't look like it gets the ball to me, and she goes down. And I think that's, no VAR. I don't think they would overturn the call anyhow if there were VAR, but it doesn't look like she gets the ball. So PK, well executed. Keeper guesses right, but it's a well struck ball. So okay, so let's go back. Okay, so I think the interesting thing here is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 TCNJ players, 7 TCNJ players in the relative vicinity of this throw. And instead of sort of covering they try to double team, they get going, and then as soon as, again, this goes to my point earlier about winning the ball, they finally win the ball, and they have actually in a good spot have a number of players and get going. And a simple play right here, when I said about being wasteful with the ball, that's being wasteful with the ball. And so that ball gets cleared out. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, say 7 TC&J players up. Midfielder wins it. There is no one's really, except for this player here coming back to get back into position. No one's really pressing her, so she has time to bring the ball under control and send this ball over the defensive line that had been stepped all the way up, so it gets behind, and then it's a foot race. And if you're lucky, like C&U had, where they have a really speedy forward, right? It makes it hard, and that's what happens, right? So again, it just, to me, there was a bunch of different things that happened in there that I just noticed as part of this game. So let me just go through a couple things more to say about that. And let me go back and figure this out. Okay, so nope. Yeah, this ends up being a fun way of how to switch between all this stuff. There we go. And let me zoom it up so you can see me. There we go. Okay. So this is where I call the anatomy of the game, and the things that really stood out for me. That is as part of the game. So let me go with the first one. So this is early in the game, so 10 minutes in. This is Christopher Newport and their what I call their defensive posture when the ball is being played in, or however. And it consistently, when TC&J would get on the attack, this is sort of how they would set themselves up. And if you just count the number of defenders that are in play, there are eight defenders to TC&J's 5 players, right? So you have, every single one of those players is marked, and then there's 3 extra players, basically, Christopher Newport players. And then there's a 9th out here, right, who is probably watching somebody who's coming through, but can easily drop back into this space, and then they become 9 defenders, right? And I think if you watch the game, this is what you see, and this is why it was so hard for TC&J to actually mount any sort of dangerous attack. This is in the second half, again, because I sort of do confirmation, whatever, bias. No, I tried not to get sucked in by confirmation bias, right? I see something once and I want to confirm that my thoughts are accurate, especially when it comes to soccer. Other things, not so much. But for soccer, this is what I try to do. And again, I sort of did a count. And okay, so 2 players on the ball. You have a third dropping back into this space and covering this TC&J player. Then you have defender, 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 and a 7th. You could see the shadow right there. See her shadow. So you have 7 defenders, and then you have an 8th and a 9th player who are in their own half who can drop back into support, right? And 2 players are on the TC&J player with the ball. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 TC&J players for 7 Christopher Newport players. So they're 1 up, and they could be I'll just say 2 up if this player just sort of drops back into space, right? And that's what makes it so hard to get to goal, is when you're going through all these players and just look at how TC&J is organized. Yeah, they have here, but this player has a pass here, but this player is running away. This player is running that direction into the corner. No one's really checking to her. So even if she could get the ball away from those two, a pass would be really difficult. So let me take a look really quick at TC&J. This is the second goal. This is the penalty kick where they sort of catch, again, very quickly on a counter, get behind the defense. But to me, this is, again, you have 4 defenders going 5, right, that are chasing backwards. And you constantly saw in different plays TC&J running back to the ball, not forward to the ball. They're always running back to goal. And plays like that, again, it ends up chaotic, right? You have this number 2 player who commits the penalty, cuts in to cover. This third player who's actually marking this player is switching and going back into the middle to cover. You have this player on the outside probably being covered here. You have this player who is ready to make a run. So there's 3 potential players against 4 defenders that are running back, right? And even this, let's say it's 5th. So on this, because that ball gets behind, it just creates a whole different dynamic than if this ball got dropped in right here and these players were facing the ball and going forward towards it rather than chasing it backwards. And then, again, because I don't want to be guilty of confirmation bias or whatever, again, that term is, I just looked again, and this is in the first half, right? This is, you have, they get the ball between the lines. Again, they're stuck with the 3 defenders, which is fine, and they're facing, but look at where their numbers are. They're chasing, right? And so again, if because of the way this is, this player becomes isolated here, and if she can beat her, she opens up, sorry about that, she opens up space. Has space to go, and if this center back doesn't have time to get to that ball, she has an open chance at goal. And you saw this continually throughout the game. So anyhow, really interesting stuff. I kind of went a little bit long here in terms of covering the game. So I did want to end on one thing, and which I always do. Look, the reason why I really enjoy the D3 world is because as a student athlete myself, formerly, obvious, it's not obvious, I have a real sense of devotion to these kids that go out there and train just as hard, are as passionate about the game as any Division I player that you'll see, and they're doing it for a lot less, right? So with that, I just thought it would be appropriate to congratulate Christopher Newport on, from what I understand, their first national championship as a university. And that goes to the women's team. How great is that? Love the picture. Lots of smiles, and in this case, I think well deserved. And kudos to TC&J, which year in and year out is just a fantastic soccer program, bar none. Right? They have a history, and they are always looking to make the final dance. So kudos to them. But on this occasion, congratulations, Christopher Newport, and celebration. Okay, thanks again, Simple Coach, signing out. Jackie is still asleep, which is remarkable. Thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoy. Bye.